Welcome to Epilogue Podcast, the show where we discuss some stuff that happened on a different show ages ago which nobody really cares about anymore.
Hi, I'm LeBloc.
And I'm Portponky. Wait a second.
Oh, wait, no, I'm Portponky.
And I'm LeBloc.
Should we do this normally?
I like the idea of someone listening to this episode first and then now being totally confused.
Okay, fair enough. Today, we're discussing Deep Space Nine, Season 4, Episode 11, Homefront. Sisko and Odo are assigned to help Starfleet protect Earth from changeling infiltrators.
In person, because they can't just tell them over communications?
Yeah, I don't quite get that, because there was presumably a chief of security on Earth, and he's just been sent home or something.
He got sacked.
And Sisko, who has no experience in that particular role and its duties, just gets chucked into the mix.
And accepts it without hesitation, of course.
Well, he would accept it because he's power mad, but it's odd that he wasn't put into an advisory role.
Outside of plot reasons, I don't understand why they were there in person.
Because if they weren't there, Odo wouldn't have figured out that Leighton was a changeling at one point, which was of no consequence.
Yeah, all that did was confirm, yes, there are changelings on Earth, which they already knew.
Thinking about that now, that doesn't make a lot of sense, because they didn't kidnap Leighton. Presumably he was off doing something else.
He was having a nap.
So, yeah, okay. Well, what's her face? Bentine would have noticed later on that he was a changeling.
The changeling had the real guy in stasis, suspended from the ceiling.
Okay, but later on, presumably they would have released that guy. At least, because he didn't seem to have to break out of anything. Just, he turned up later, saying, oh, there was a changeling meet? That's terrible. So if they hadn't caught Leighton Changeling, presumably he would have stopped impersonating Leighton. And Bentine, is that her name? Bentine?
I don't know.
Okay, well, she would have said, hey, remember when we were walking around and Odo was the seagull? He would have... Then, the ruse would have been revealed. So I don't know why they were on Earth. They did nothing really of consequence that they couldn't have done via email.
Unless Sisko suggested it so he would have an excuse to see his dad? I don't remember how he framed it exactly.
He got summoned. There was a priority 1 security message.
Okay, so they specifically wanted him there.
Well, maybe. I can't remember. But he couldn't speak to his dad on subspace, which is the weirdest thing of all. Because there was a bunch of people, like, Nog was really happy to see Jake. O'Brien asked Odo to speak to his now no longer dead parents.
That was weird. Why don't you just talk to them, O'Brien?
Yeah, it doesn't fit with the same scene with Sisko talking to his dad over a video link. Why does he need to go and get Odo to drop by at someone's house? He doesn't even know them.
Yeah. Hello, I'm delivering a message.
They can just do messages via Skype.
That's such a slap in the face. He could so easily say hello to them, but chooses not to, I guess.
Well, it kind of makes sense. I did mention a second ago, his mother is apparently not dead anymore. He previously stated his mother had died in Whispers in season whatever.
Well, as we've seen with Chief O'Brien, death does not stop an O'Brien.
That's true, he's died 5-ish times by now.
Yeah, I've lost count. It's been so many.
Death is just part of the day. Speaking of,
That's the O'Brien motto.
you can't stop an O'Brien. Even if you kill them, they will not stop. Speaking of undead parents, Cisco previously said that his father, well, he didn't say his father had died, but he strongly implied his father had passed away.
And I'm glad you pointed that out when it happened because it made this episode funny because of that.
He never actually stated his father had died, just that he got gravely ill and then they realized there was nothing they could do.
Which sounds like he died.
That is how you would interpret it. My old man was so sick, and in the end realized there was nothing we could do because he got better.
He could be really bad at telling stories.
It just gives completely the wrong impression. Oh no, that was supposed to be a positive story about how even in the face of hopelessness, things can suddenly turn out quite well.
He would always tell his wife, "We need to have a serious talk. I really love you."
This is deadly serious. You want pasta or pizza for dinner? Which kind of, in this episode, he has quite a lot of very serious discussions with the president. We have to declare a state of emergency. Well, do we? Not really.
I had a hard time believing that ineffectual dude leads the Federation.
You're not alone in that. That was quite common feedback for this episode when it aired. He was supposed to be a kind of peacetime president, but he just came off as a bit milquetoast.
They did touch on that, how he is a leader made for peacetime, but it didn't work for me.
He seemed leadery, like he was quite, I don't know, articulate, but he just did whatever they said. He didn't really seem very diplomatic or interested in what was going on.
He seemed more interested in his reputation as a leader. I don't want to be the guy that caused whatever. Never mind how many people can die.
Defending our planet against the invasion fleet? Oh, jeez. I really wanted an easy presidency. Well, he even says that. I regret becoming president.
Yeah.
It would be difficult.
I was hoping to phone this one in.
I'm gonna go back to my home planet and roll from there. Tell us how you get on.
Best of luck.
He was super tall, though. 6'9", if you're
Holy
curious.
cow.
Tall guy, taller than John Cleese.
That didn't come across to me.
You don't notice that when he was sitting down at his desk, he was taller than Cisco?
Most of the shots of him were close-ups of his weird face.
With his little cheek holes.
Which I kept staring at.
Do you think when he eats spaghetti, he can thread spaghetti through those little holes?
Yes.
Slurp it in, one on each side at the same time?
Yes, that's exactly what I think.
I don't think they lead into his mouth.
Oh, that's too bad.
Because why would you evolve additional mouth holes?
For efficient spaghetti eating.
How's that efficient? Take ages to thread it through.
For entertaining spaghetti eating.
So you can eat spaghetti and do something else with your mouth.
Talk and eat spaghetti at the same time without being 100% gross.
But you couldn't talk because that uses your throat.
He has two throats. He has a spaghetti duct and the vocal one.
Jesus.
I did notice that the holes for his, I guess, nose weren't really holes. So I kept thinking about the actor in that mask, makeup, and struggling to breathe. breathing through his mouth.
Breathing through his mouth and his two small ventilation/spaghetti holes.
Yes.
Oh, imagine if he... Oh, okay. You know, sometimes you're going to sneeze and you hold your nose and close your mouth and you kind of do a stalled sneeze.
Yes.
If it was him, it would all launch out of those holes like a whale's blowhole on both sides of his face.
That is the preferred way to sneeze in his culture.
So if he was at the cinema and he sneezed,
It's considered a display of power.
sneezing directly onto the people sitting next to you.
Yeah. It's good luck to be covered in mucus.
It isn't, actually. Even the Ferengi are not that disgusting.
Agree to disagree.
I don't think we've discussed a single alien's face structure this much since Handleface.
Well, Handleface was outrageously stupid. We couldn't avoid that conversation.
So if Handleface is, say, he's 1.0 on the scale of aliens whose entire structure makes no sense practically or evolutionary, where's this guy? Where 0 is a believable alien.
I'm so confused by your scale. So what?
So if they get 1.0, they're as bad as Handleface. Anything between 0 and 1 is a smooth gradient.
Oh, okay.
If they get 2, they're twice as handly.
Well, his isn't that bad. 0.4.
That's pretty bad.
Trills would be way up there. They don't make any sense.
Well, yeah, that's true. This episode was originally going to be the season 3 finale.
This doesn't come across strong enough to be a season finale.
I think the one they actually went with, the Adversary, was a lot stronger because it was one episode with a very sinister open end. I don't know, cliffhanger endings can be good, but they can be goofy. I don't think the cliffhanger in this one is particularly good.
No, it's not.
Paramount said they did not want a cliffhanger ending though, so they went with the Adversary instead. But yeah, the cliffhanger here, either they're going to invade and there'll be a big gunfight, or they're not going to invade and there won't be a big gunfight. I think I covered all the possibilities there.
Or they half invade. Half a gunfight.
Half a gunfight is just one side.
No, it's half a gunfight.
Everyone's equipped with half guns.
Yes, and half bullets. Half phasers. The changelings split in half.
I can reveal it's actually not half a gunfight in the next episode. That is not what happens. That's a spoiler, I guess. Oh, it's half a spoiler. How would you describe Sisko's attitude towards the Ferengi in this episode?
I can't even remember him saying anything about Ferengi.
Well, he was so disgusted with Nog, he sort of went off his dinner.
Oh, right.
And later on, Nog asked him for a favor, and he also looked physically sick.
He has deep-seated issues he'll have to settle with.
It might just be Nog he doesn't like.
Oh, well, we see him react poorly with Quark, too. Not in this episode, but in general.
That's why it kind of stands out a bit when... Especially with Nog, who's the one Ferengi who's trying to make more of himself. And Sisko's just like, oh, geez, not you again. Ugh.
How does that make you feel? Does it trouble you?
Well, Sisko's overwhelming prejudice towards the Ferengi.
Yes, that.
No, I think everyone else gives them too easy a pass. Sisko's the only one with his head screwed on.
So you're pro-prejudice.
Well, I am... Yes, I am.
Okay.
Well, they're scum. They treat women like toys.
That's putting it kindly.
Yeah, they act very disgusting. No wonder Cisco's disgusted by them. I'm sure I'm reading into this far too much.
Possibly.
The Cisco family were finally reunited. I say finally, I guess we thought his dad was dead, so we didn't know he existed. But this is the first time we see Triple Cisco and see the restaurant as well, I guess. I say first time, I can't remember if it shows up again.
I liked seeing the family problems, the stubbornness and lack of cooperation, how that stuff won't be solved by technology, and it will always be a constant with humans.
People like to have a good time and sometimes don't really care if it's going to knock years off their life.
It was weird to me that Cisco was bothered by how he questioned his father. And he says, I don't care if it's reasonable or not. But that's his job, to question these things. And he was appointed the security guy of Earth or whatever. Yet he's mad at himself. That was strange to me. You don't know if that's your dad, and it's your job to check.
I did think that Cisco's paranoia was totally justified. He'd never tried to say, hey, you definitely could be a shapeshifter. You haven't seen what they're like. They could be anyone. They fit in like magic. You can't tell.
They are literally indistinguishable. Unless it's Odo, who for some reason is not good at this. Oh, speaking of changelings, whatever, this whole episode's about changelings, but that woman whose name I can't remember, she says...
Bentine.
Yes, her. She says, I've never seen you imitate a life form before. He's always imitating a life form. What?
She meant a non-humanoid one.
Still, that's strange.
The word animal would have been much simpler and clearer. If anything, imitating a life form is slightly less impressive.
Why?
I don't know. Because all life is kind of related. So it's kind of like all creatures have roughly legs and arms. Like, not all of them, but all the bigger ones. And a mouth and an anus.
I think you covered the important bits.
Yeah. If he turns into, I don't know, like a filing cabinet or something, that's totally different from a person. Or a car. If he turned into a car, that would be cool.
That would be cool. And then Quark could drive Odo, the Odo car.
Quark already drives Odo up the wall with his crazy zany pranks. Why did he go to Quark? I don't get it. Okay, so Dax moved his furniture, which is quite funny. And then he runs over to Quark like, oh, Quark!
They realized they needed a Odo Quark scene because they haven't been doing that for a while. So they arbitrarily made Odo whine to Quark.
But he even says, you two planned this, yet she's done it on her own several times. So I don't know where he got the Quark thing from. Maybe he just wants a shoulder to cry on.
That, and he's said in the past, whenever something happens, he assumes Quark is involved.
So why doesn't he assume he did the bombing on Earth?
So, about that break-in, that happened to the chief of security. Someone broke into his private quarters, and he's the chief of security, and he's not even annoyed about that. He's annoyed that the person moved his furniture. He should be annoyed that the person was able to gain access to his living quarters at all.
Whilst he was there and incapacitated.
Yeah.
It was Dax, though. She might have used security clearance or something.
Yeah.
But if she did, that's worse than anything. I mean, she cannot be trusted with her responsibilities.
Oh, she's just having a bit of fun.
She's causing absolute chaos.
Compromising everyone's security.
Crossing lines that should not be crossed. This is why the Dominion hate solids.
Because they push furniture several inches or centimeters, whatever it was.
The Dominion have zero sense of humor, so any prank is perceived as a massive slight against them as a race.
That makes sense. Humans are all about pranks.
Yep, they're pranky guys, those jokers. What?
What's it called when you take words that someone said from something and repeat them?
I believe it is called a quote.
Yes, it is, and I have one.
Oh, okay.
I found that when it comes to doing what's best for you, you humanoids have the distressing habit of doing the exact opposite.
Cisco agrees. I would probably agree too.
And I would agree as well.
Okay, then the motion is passed.
It is now law.
Odo's law.
Odo's rule of obedience number forever.
I don't think that we actually do the exact opposite. Well, usually because it's a binary thing, as in, you must do this to improve your health. And then people say, oh, but not eating pizza for every meal would be really frustrating, so I'm just going to keep doing that.
If you have to pick apart that quote, it would be that bit, the exact opposite. There are more than two choices to most things.
Yeah, you need to stop smoking. What if someone wants to stop smoking? They might smoke less, but they definitely wouldn't start smoking more. Oh, I've got to cut these out. I'll buy twice as many.
That'll do it. Yeah, so the opposite thing doesn't... He should have just said, you don't do it. When it comes to doing what's best for you, you don't do it. You avoid it somehow.
Yeah. I find it very difficult to do what's best. Did you notice, when the soldiers were beaming down into the streets of New Orleans, there was a horse and cart?
Oh, yeah. I saw that, but then it didn't register in my brain how weird that is.
I mean, I guess that's a New Orleans thing. Sort of traditional thing, is it?
Oh, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised, though.
It just seemed really weird. This sad-looking horse and cart.
For your one shot of these soldiers beaming down, you make sure to have a horse within frame.
As if transport has regressed seriously. Which it probably would have, now that they have teleportation technology. There wouldn't be cars anymore, would there?
For recreational activities.
Nah, because people would just use segways. Okay, you've justified the horse and everything Cisco's ever done, so I think we can safely move on to part 2 of this surprise two-parter.
I am excited for the half battle.
But they didn't have a battle this episode, so if the next episode is entirely battles, overall it will be half battle?
1.5 battle.
What?
You'll see.
Okay.
Until next time.
Yes, until next time.